Today is Wednesday, February 16th. We'll talk about why the U.S. is not that reassured, even as Russia says its troops are starting to pull back from Ukraine. Also, two high-profile settlements, one involving a member of the British royal family, the other is a first of its kind involving America's oldest gunmaker. Plus, another person is said to be cured of HIV, how LA will be celebrating the Super Bowl win, and more support around the world for a 4-day work week we'll explain. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Russia says some of its troops are backing off the Ukrainian border, but that doesn't necessarily mean an invasion is off the table. Russia's president would not commit to withdrawing all of its troops. He said Russia's next moves will depend on how the situation evolves. And so far, the U.S. and its allies have not seen any evidence that Russia has actually started to pull back troops at all. Some even say it looks like more Russian troops are going closer to the Ukrainian borders and are being put into attack positions. As of yesterday, the U.S. said 150,000 Russian forces were massed near Ukraine. And President Biden says an invasion is still a distinct possibility. Biden is promising to give Russia every chance to resolve its conflicts with talks, not violence. But he says if Russia does invade, Western nations will not hesitate to respond. Biden is also warning if the U.S. does need to punish Russia with sanctions, they might also impact the American economy. That could mean more price hikes and energy supply issues. Still, he says these sacrifices could be necessary. As Biden put it in his White House address, quote, "If we do not stand for freedom where it is at risk today, we'll surely pay a steeper price tomorrow." Meanwhile, some analysts think Russia might try to attack Ukraine in other ways besides a full-on war. In fact, just yesterday, Ukraine was hit with a series of cyber attacks. They knocked out the websites of the Ukrainian army, the defense ministry, and major banks. So far, it's not clear exactly who was behind the attacks, but the Washington Post cites intelligence that says it was likely Russian government hackers. Here in the United States, the White House is making sure American federal agencies are also prepared for Russian cyber attacks. And it's encouraging critical businesses, like those who work with electricity, gas, and more, to tighten up their security as well. Though talks are continuing. The White House is asking Congress for even more money to fight COVID-19. The Health and Human Services Department laid it out in a call with lawmakers. People on that call told several news outlets HHS requested another $30 billion. The money would go to things like antiviral drugs, testing, and nearly $3 billion to fight future COVID-19 variants. But most Republicans and some Democrats are skeptical. They say the White House should spend all of the money from the last relief bill first before asking for more money. On the other hand, supporters say the U.S. needs to order soon to have supplies ready for later this year. Even without a new bill, Congress has already approved $5.8 trillion to battle the pandemic. For now, it seems Prince Andrew will not answer more questions about sexual abuse allegations. He settled the lawsuit against him. As we've reported before, an American woman has been suing the member of the British royal family, saying he raped her when she was a teenager. And this dates back 20 years when Prince Andrew was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, the prince has settled the suit, though it's not clear exactly how much he's paying. A statement says Andrew will also make a donation to a charity that supports victims' rights. This deal comes just weeks before Andrew was scheduled to sit for a deposition where he would have been questioned under oath by his accuser's lawyers. Now, that won't happen. Andrew still insists he's not guilty, and so far the prince has not been charged with a crime. But he could be still if there's enough evidence. At this point, the U.S. Attorney's Office is not commenting. It seems America's coastline is going to look a lot different 30 years from now. A new government report says sea levels could rise another foot by 2050. That's as much as they rose in the entire 20th century. The biggest rise is expected on the Gulf and East Coasts. For example, waters in parts of Texas and Louisiana could go up by 1.5 feet. Higher seas are especially a problem when storms like hurricanes hit the coast, since they can cause a lot more damage. But they're also becoming a problem even on sunny days. Cities like Miami Beach, Florida, and Annapolis, Maryland, have been getting a few minor floods a year just during high tides. Researchers say by 2050, those will be more common and more severe. And they could cause real property damage. They say other areas along the East Coast, even highly populated cities, will start to flood, even though they haven't been considered flood zones yet. You can probably guess what scientists say is to blame: climate change. They say the warming Earth has caused ice sheets and glaciers to melt, and that's why sea levels are rising too. The researchers say what's going to happen by 2050 likely cannot be undone at this point. But if changes are made now, they say things might not have to get that much worse the next 30 or 50 years after that. All right, stick around. More news is coming up, but first, a quick break from our sponsor. Want to refresh your wardrobe with seasonal pieces that actually feel like you? That's where Stitch Fix comes in. All you do to get started is take a style quiz so Stitch Fix can learn your preferences, like your favorite colors to wear, your preferred fits, and price ranges. From there, Stitch Fix gets to work. Either a stylist will send you 5 pieces chosen just for you, then you can try them on, keep what you like, and return the rest. It's easy, and I find it really fun to see what comes in each fix. Or allow Stitch Fix to build an online store customized to your preferences. I appreciate that Stitch Fix Freestyle allows me to shop one piece at a time when that's all I'm looking for. It's the easy way to get items that are just right for you from brands you know and trust without that endless browsing. I also really like how it visually shows me what else works well with that sweater or those particular jeans, for example. So get started today by filling out your free style quiz at stitchfix.com/newsworthy and take advantage of free shipping and free returns. That's stitchfix.com/newsworthy to try Stitch Fix. stitchfix.com/newsworthy. It's another breakthrough in the fight against HIV. A woman is thought to be the third person cured of the virus. Scientists said she's in remission 4 years after getting a transplant of stem cells harvested from umbilical cord blood. This is promising since that's more widely available than the adult stem cells needed for things like bone marrow transplants. This is also the first time the transplant has been successful in a mixed-race woman, which scientists say means more people could be cured, since before now it's only been used on a white man and Hispanic man. While these success stories do bring hope, researchers say it's not feasible for all the millions of people living with HIV. All 3 of the patients cured actually got the transplant as part of cancer treatment. It's meant to replace a person's immune system with another person's to treat their cancer, and then it would cure the HIV. But experts say doing this risky process to someone who does not have life-threatening cancer could be toxic and sometimes deadly. Nearly 39 million people are living with HIV globally, and about 73% of them are getting some type of treatment. There's more evidence showing women who get vaccinated for COVID-19 while they're pregnant may benefit their babies too. Researchers from children's hospitals and the CDC looked at hundreds of babies who were in the hospital over the past 6 months. Since none of those babies were eligible to get their own vaccines yet, the only ones who had some kind of protection were ones who got it while in the womb. And that protection did seem to help. The CDC now says the COVID-19 vaccines were 61% effective at protecting babies whose moms got the shot while pregnant from going to the hospital. That protection rose to 80% when the women were vaccinated later in their pregnancy. Though the CDC does not recommend women who are pregnant wait to get the shots, since research shows they can help protect the mother as well, and getting actual COVID-19 can cause pregnancy complications. For the first time, a gun manufacturer is being held liable for a mass shooting in the United States. Families of the victims in the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting reached a $73 million settlement with a gun manufacturer. Remember, 20 first graders and 6 educators were killed 9 years ago when a shooter opened fire in the school. He was using an AR-15 style rifle designed by Remington Arms. So 9 families and 1 survivor sued the gunmaker for its role in the tragedy, saying the company should have never sold a dangerous weapon to the public. The civil case also focused on how the rifle was marketed, saying Remington was targeting younger at-risk males and glorified violence in product placements like violent video games. Remington, which is in bankruptcy, first pushed back and it appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court, but the High Court declined to hear the case. Now, along with paying the millions of dollars, Remington agreed families could release thousands of documents from the lawsuit showing how the company marketed the gun. Unfortunately, the long winning streak came to an end for Team USA's men's hockey team. They fought a close game against Slovakia in the quarterfinals this morning. It was tied up all the way through overtime, but the Americans ended up losing in a shootout. Now all eyes are on the American women. They face rival Canada tomorrow to decide who takes home gold and who takes home silver. A lot of other athletes have already claimed their Olympics hardware, though. Earlier this morning, Team USA freestyle skiers kept their Olympic medal streak going in men's slopestyle. Americans won gold and silver in the event, earning Team USA a spot on the podium in the event for the 3rd consecutive Olympics. So as of right now, Team USA is still sitting in 3rd with 19 medals, 8 of them gold. The City of Angels has become the City of Champions. Los Angeles will honor the Rams for winning the Super Bowl with a parade today. It's the first big victory parade in Los Angeles since the start of the pandemic. No parades were held there after the Lakers and Dodgers championship wins in 2020. If you're in the area, you may notice that even the most famous part of Tinseltown is giving the Super Bowl champs a nod, the Hollywood sign. Workers put covers over the iconic Hollywood letters to change them to read Rams House. Also of note from the Super Bowl, the final numbers are in. More than 112 million people watched the championship game. That's up nearly 13% from last year. In fact, it's the most watched since 2015 Super Bowl. And that's it for the main news today. So now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, a message from our sponsor. It's a new year, which means it's time for new ideas. And turns out that women may be better investors than men. That's right. According to research, women investors outperform their male counterparts. So what gives some women investors an edge? They're more likely to be risk-conscious with their investments, according to this research. And one asset that can help diversify your portfolio and is not so correlated to traditional stocks and bonds is blue-chip contemporary art. And typically, it's only the bajillionaires like Beyonce and Bezos who can afford a chic Picasso for their walls. But Masterworks is changing all of that. Masterworks is the startup giving everyday investors a piece of the art pie, or palette to be metaphorical. They've made blue-chip art investable, so you can own a fraction of a multi-million-dollar piece of art. That way, anyone can add paintings by artists like Monet, Basquiat, and Banksy to their portfolio without paying millions. And you can join them by going to masterworks.art/newsworthy. Again, that's masterworks.art/newsworthy. See important disclosures at masterworks.io/disclaimer. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. The 4-day work week is catching on around the world. Belgium is the latest country to announce its employees can work a shorter work week and earn the same salaries. Their new reform package says the decision actually is up to the employee. They can request a 4-day work week for a trial 6-month period. And if they like it, they can keep it, or they can opt out. But companies there can still refuse the request as long as they put why in writing. If employees do get that 5th day off, they'll have to work longer on the other 4 days to get the required 38 hours a week. That's different from other countries, though, that have just dropped the 5th day of work completely. But a lot of countries are doing this in some capacity. The UK started a trial program last year that has about 30 companies taking part in it. Similar programs are in place in Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. Spain, Japan, and Iceland are all taking the chance with a shorter work week as well. Plus, the UAE started 2022 as the first nation to adopt a 4.5-day work week, with just half days on Fridays. Probably one of the biggest reasons is taking off around the world is because research suggests it makes people more efficient workers. But one common concern is whether a 4-day work week is really practical for all types of businesses. All right, thank you so much for joining us as part of your daily routine. We'll catch you up on much more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.